Good morning, James Pearson here. Today's video, I'd like to go over 5 things that I wish I knew starting out disc golfing as a 40-year-old, well, an over 40-year-old person. Right now I'm 45. For those of you that aren't going to hang out very long, I'll give you a quick listing of the 5 things, and then I'll go into more detail as I go through the video. Start simple. You don't need a whole lot of discs. We'll go over what you actually need. Next, don't overthink the flight numbers. They may or may not apply to you as a beginner the way you might think. Next, don't worry about sticking to a specific brand. There's so many brands and there's so many awesome discs out there. Next, prioritize form, throwing form over throwing hard. So throwing right. This helps avoid injury, and we'll go into this. Next, enjoy the process. Be patient. Don't be comparing yourself to others. What do you guys think of the Leopard? Echo, what do you think of the Leopard? What do you think? It's a good disc, right? Yummy stuff. Okay, so first thing I wish I knew starting out over 40. Start simple. You see all these people at disc golf courses or on videos playing disc golf, and they've got a whole backpack full of discs. And it's a little bit confusing how they decide what disc to use. Another thing that's confusing is all the words they say. For example, whenever they make a good throw or a good putt, let's go. You gotta say that. Why? Who knows? Being over 45, I'm not a guy who's gonna be saying, let's go, every time I make a good shot. I'm probably not gonna use the word literally a whole lot because I actually understand how to use it. Anyway, there's a lot of things that you see or hear, and some things can be confusing. Starting simple, I recommend 1 to 3 discs. And I don't recommend that you choose a disc based on its speed number. The flight numbers are speed, glide, turn, and fade. The only ones that really matter for you as a beginner are turn and fade. And I would say speed, but not highest speed. I would recommend throwing as your driver something like the Innova Leopard, which has numbers of 6, 5, -2, 1. I've seen great success with the Leopard from my daughter, from my father, who is 75. That is his go-to distance disc. It always works best for him. And note that the cheapest plastic DX Innova Leopard is the one that seems to be the most understable, which means it flies best for a low-speed thrower. It's going to fly straighter. And that's definitely the case for my dad, also for my daughters. So, highly recommend something like that. Doesn't have to be that exact disc. Other manufacturers make similar discs. The main point is around a 6-speed driver with numbers like -2, 1 for the turn and fade. For the next disc, I'd recommend something like the Detour from MVP, which is also an understable disc. It has flight numbers 5, 4, -2, 1. I found that disc to be a very straight flyer and to go farther than expected. It typically goes about as far as some, drivers do for a beginner. So I've seen that one quite successfully work for me, for my dad as well, and a couple other people have tried it. Then putter, I recommend just choose a putter that you think looks cool. That's a little grippy, it sticks to the chains when it hits them. And also note that a putter is good to throw, not just putt with. People will talk about putting putter versus throwing putter, and that is a thing. That means sometimes you just have a putter you use for throwing only. Sometimes you have one you use for putting only. But I'd say go ahead and mix it up. It doesn't matter if you use them both for the same thing. You're just learning, you're getting practice. So that would be my recommendation for starting out with a bag of discs. Next, and I kind of already said this, flight numbers don't really matter how you think. Just really quick, a lot of people think they need a high-speed disc to throw far and fast. They're more aerodynamic or what have you. Don't buy a destroyer. It's just not going to work how you expect as a beginner. I bought a Katana starting out. That was the very first disc I ever bought, which is a 13-speed disc. And it just, it flew straight for a second and then immediately left into the ground. And that's what you can expect for high-speed discs as a beginner. They're not going to remain flat if you throw them flat. They're not going to go straight. So that can be frustrating. So don't start out that way. Speed isn't the most important thing. Next, number 3. Stay brand agnostic. In other words, don't get hung up on using just a specific brand. Right now, the brand that's probably most popular, from what I can tell, is MVP/Axiom/Streamline. They're all the same company. There are a few other smaller companies that use their molds as well. But you don't have to just buy that brand. Again, they're great. I have a bunch of them. But don't feel like you're stuck to that because, like I say, you're going to find a variety of amazing discs out there that you don't really have a good way to judge at this stage of your golf or disc golf game if one brand is better than another for you. And really it is subjective. For you, what is the best? And that just takes time to figure out. So don't worry about that too much. Okay, next. Probably one of the most important ones is prioritize your form over throwing hard. High power throws. You're going to find if you just keep trying to throw as hard as you can, it's going to be unpredictable. That disc isn't going to go the right direction, and it's not necessarily going to really go all that far. You'll watch a video of somebody throwing whatever disc it is that knows what they're doing, and it just sails out there really far. And you try it, it just doesn't do the same thing. And that's not about how big of muscles you have. It's more about the technique. If you're not careful with not overdoing it and throwing too hard and too much, you're going to hurt yourself. I've had this happen a couple times. First time, I kept buying new discs. I thought, oh, this is going to be the one that goes the farthest for me. As I was learning what kinds of discs work well as a beginner. And I was just throwing and throwing and throwing, heading to the disc golf course, throwing all the drivers I had on every hole. And I started to get this pretty severe pain in the back of my shoulder, which I believe was a rotator cuff strain. Thankfully, just a strain. It wasn't too severe, but I did not drive right-handed, as in throw a driver, for like 2 months after that. And I was pretty frustrated because I didn't want to not be able to do the thing I really love doing, playing disc golf. So I started throwing with my left hand pretty much immediately. Decided to try lefty. Worked better than I thought it would. But in the end, as I healed up and felt better throwing right in moderation, I found that I prefer right for sure. Can do left. Some people do. So please be careful. The second time I hurt myself was throwing forehand sidearm and just somehow stepped funny and pulled my hamstring a little bit. So I had to take it easy for a while from that one too. How to avoid these things? Stretch. Stretch your arms, your shoulders. Stretch your legs as you're going to start playing. Warm up a bit, throw some easier throws, not too high power, and you'll be better off and less likely to get hurt. Okay, so number 5, enjoy the process. Be happy with the progress you're making. You're not competing with anybody else. You don't have to throw this particular disc the way everyone else does. But as you get better at that form, you'll see that disc starts to do a little bit more like what the guys you watched can do with it. It's very rewarding. To wrap things up, for those of us that have had a lot of experience in life, you start to realize how doing things you enjoy benefits you. It's a way of taking care of yourself. So whether it's disc golf, whether it's something else that helps you to find joy and relaxation and just bring some positivity to your life, just do it. It's a huge boost and far better than sitting there on your phone or something like that. So anyway, appreciate you watching. If you've watched all the way to here, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and please leave comments. If you have any discs that you would recommend starting out that I haven't mentioned here, please recommend them. And thank you very much.